All right, click links to our channel here over at SubStars. So this Apple show, The Savant, is, which if it aired, it would probably just doom Apple as a TV streamer program. It's delayed, they say. Translation: it's probably as dead as the Batwoman, the DC Warner Brother movie that they made that was so bad and so woke during the time of kind of just over the peak of peak wokeness. They made it, spent $100 million on it, and then looked at it and go, yeah, we're not going to spend another $50 million in advertising to release a movie that is going to definitely lose money, but also cause further reputational harm to an IP that has had a lot of harm associated with it for a long time. And it's not just DC; it's like the same thing as going for Marvel, where it's just superhero movies now have become known as dead brands. At some point, I wonder if like DC and Marvel are going to decide, maybe let's just put things on hiatus for a little while. So this show is delayed for forever, wisely, and the idiot actor is triggered, and the idiot media woman, this black lady who seems completely unaware of the political climate, writes this article saying, "What's the problem? I saw the show, and it's just attacking those evil white people. Surely everyone would want to see that." Looking at her like, "Ma'am, you're out of your friggin' mind." So these idiots are deep. She's getting memed so hard. Oh, speaking of memes, because the meme is she's looking at the screen and she sees the letter N, right? Gavin Newsom, your governor of California, is joking because Trump has, I guess, wine or vodka or something, and it has a capital T for Trump. It's some liquor company. I don't know if it's doing well or not. And Gavin Newsom is making fun of him, so Gavin uses AI to make a Gavin Newsom bottle of wine, which is funny because during the whole Wu Flu thing, they were eating at dinner. There's like 20 people at this table, and like, stay home and wear masks and take your experimental injection. No thanks, I did not take that experimental treatment. But they're at some winery in Napa Valley, and there's like 20 people packed shoulder to shoulder at the table, and they're all eating dinner. I mean, Mayor London Breed did the same thing. San Francisco mayor, she's out doing lines and drinking and partying in a San Francisco nightclub and telling everyone else to stay home. And it's like both these things, these leaders literally said one thing and did another. But Gavin Newsom releases this bottle of wine, and it's got N on the bottle for his initial, which is not something you want to release on Twitter, because every other bottle followed with other letters that fulfilled meme prophecy. So these idiots are deep in an echo chamber in their wealthy, safe, gated estates, away from the enrichment of violent crime. I don't remember, was it Martha's Vineyard a couple years ago when the Florida and the Texas guys imported a bunch of third world people to culturally enrich them, and they were there for like, I don't know, half a day before they deported them further into the poor people part of America, which is weird because you'd think like they would have the empty homes and resources and hotels to take care of them. But it's not in their backyard. So the left wing are violent communist terrorists, and the media covers for them, where they will just redefine words if they have to. They create entire inverted narratives for so long that they're believing their own propaganda. And it's to the point now where the left and the right are starting to have different languages, lexicons, variable definitions for things. Like, well, that's not a real definition if it's either variable or circular. And that's another kind of funny thing is the left wing and this whole trans issue. It's clearly a losing issue, but it's one that they don't want to abandon because they're afraid of it starting to unravel the whole sweater. Anyway, so they had another stupid show planned with woke virtue signaling in, speaking of stupid shows, maybe you've seen South Park, with woke virtue signaling in everything. She is, of course, in a mixed relationship. Nobody wants to see that. And her focus is on harassing white people who are motivated enough to try to save their country, the country that European people created. There was no America before the Western European people created America. Before, it was just a collection of different tribal groups. So the audience doesn't want gay themes, and they really don't want trans themes. I don't know if they found a way to insert that in this kind of thing. Probably not. It's probably a bridge too far, even for left wingers, or mixed race type of concepts. It's weird because you see that in every commercial now, and then you look around in reality, and it's like, yeah, but this is just not reality. It's only in commercials. It's overrepresentation by orders of magnitude. Or this actress, I'm sure she's not in a mixed race relationship. People don't want to see girl power. And they definitely don't want to see anti-white anything or anti-Christian cultural Marxism. And for a lot of the left, anti-white, anti-Christian are almost synonymous. So the audience knows that European Americans are not the problem in America. Everyone knows what the problem is. If they wanted to stop violence, you don't go to Idaho to look at militias, guys in 4x4s who are doing target practice. I mean, literally constitutionally protected First Amendment activity. None of that. I mean, it's in the Bill of Rights. The Founding Fathers had long discussions about the need to water the tree with the blood of tyrants and patriots. If you wanted to stop violence, you just go to Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, L.A., Oakland, and you'd start imprisoning people for crime. You wouldn't have a catch and release system, and you would save a lot of lives. It's not right-wing, blonde-haired, blue-eyed militias in Idaho that are causing anyone any kind of problem. That's just insanity. If you're talking about domestic terrorism in general, are you familiar with 911? Because there was 3,000 people who lost their lives because of Islamic terrorism, and that was, 25 odd years ago. So that's number one in domestic terrorism, and it's actually number one in global terrorism. It's a lot of hot words for YouTube. But the main issue that it's not blonde people in skull masks with AR and plate kits and all that kind of LARPy stuff. It's fun to march around wearing all that stuff, but it's like they're not the problem. They're just the Kathleen Kennedy Club, and you're like, okay, there's 5 to 10,000 of those people who you can loosely say are in that group, very loosely, or similar groups, a few thousand more. But that's not the issue, because it's not the mens rea, the state of mind. It's the actus reus, the crime, the actual physical act of crime. We don't punish thought crimes. We're not Palantir with a digital subcutaneous ID yet. Oh, I'm sorry, they're rolling that out in the UK first before they roll that out in America. But it's good to know that Stormer is actually going in that direction of the digital ID, and that someone points out, they go, if the digital ID is on your phone, and phones are stolen in London every 6 minutes, don't say it. And so the guy, I think it was Morgoth's review, points out, if the phones are stolen and the ID's on the phone, there's a more secure, permanent place to put that ID. You're talking about subcutaneous IDs. Yes, subcutaneous IDs. England. And I mean this specifically, England, not Scotland, Wales, Ireland. England specifically is weirdly, comically evil, like totalitarianly evil, where they need a big overturning of their political system. So you probably want to get started on that now while you have the demographics in your favor. So it's my point being is it's not blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. No matter what Ta-Nehisi Coates, writing Captain America about 5 or 10 years ago, was writing the most ridiculous comics ever. And then the reporter who's covering this, the black woman who wrote for Variety, she wrote this article, and she's referring to white nationalism. It's like, okay, so let's, like, nationalism, Natal, the group of the people who make the country, and you mean like American citizens of European descent, the people who mostly created the country. Honorable mention to the black descendants of slaves. but it was white nationalism. Like, what do you think the founding fathers were all about? I mean, it's like it wasn't expressly that, but it was European people who created a nation, so European nationalism. But through control of the media, they're able to conflate all these terms together to where somehow they've created this nonsense term like nationalism, we'll say European nationalism, to turn it into a negative. You go, wait a minute, if you mean that is synonymous with like the guys marching around in Hugo Boss or with skull masks and type of stuff who are not breaking any laws, why don't you just say that? Nazi, I'm trying to say without saying the word. But they don't want to say that because, defamation, slander, and libel are issues. So they say nationalism, and they're trying to get you to think that those terms are all synonymous, but they're not, because they're different words. But the media is not the media anymore. So nationalism is a good thing. It's what built America. In their minds, they think that Trump is the Fuhrer, and he's gearing up to invade Poland with his gang of evil white men. And in this show, there was definitely going to be a Charlie Kirk stand-in type of character, maybe a Nick Fuentes, and a Turning Point type of group with red hats and plenty of crosses and like white Christian nationalism. It's like, yeah, if you have your options of living in Chicago or living in some like Wyoming with white Christian nationalists, like, y'all know where you'd rather live because you're not crazy. And there's probably be a theme in the show about some secret plan to have another J6, but this time, like, they'll actually bring weapons because it was a peaceful, unarmed assembly. The mostly peaceful assembly, where the DEI hire police were the ones who actually murdered a few unarmed people. So congratulations to that. So this show was going to be every stupid cliche. How do I know this? Because this is just all Hollywood now. This Hollywood ship is not turning around. I'm serious when I say it's time to forget about Hollywood and things in the mainstream as well. And I miss Hollywood as well. I catch older movies on Odyssey and Rumble live stream. Old movies are a lot of fun. I just saw A New Hope and Empire last night, the 16 millimeter cuts. I guess it was filmed in 35 millimeter. And the technical limitations of film actually made for a better film because things are not so crystal clear. And in a sci-fi fantasy where it's a fantastic setting like in Empire, where there's a polar bear type of creature taking Luke and all these kind of, he's hanging him up upside down, and he what's that snow creature he's riding out there in the snow. It's all these kind of like practical effects, but it's not crystal clear, and it works when it's not crystal clear. And nowadays movies are shot in digital, and it's like 4K or even higher. It doesn't work because it's like hyper realism is too realistic. Like with Disney Star Wars, you're seeing all this lens flare and spaceships are perfect, but your mind looks at it and goes, yeah, this is too perfect. Where George Lucas using actual cardboard models, they look weathered and beat up because they were real objects. Anyway, so I catch these old movies. They're a lot of fun. And I came across some Manger in the neighborhood book exchange, and it is such a different experience from American comics, where it's cozy stuff with comedy, romance, action, the standard stuff, story stuff that you just want to keep it light, a lightweight story that just keeps moving. And then you get into American comics, and it's like black power communist propaganda with usually obese, gay, mixed race feminists. And it doesn't have to be this way, but it's not going to change. Similar things occurred to me when I was reading this 15-year-old book, some action adventure, Clive Cussler book from 2010. But in the setting of the book, it was a Mexican terrorist group trying to seize power in Mexico. And nowadays, I just don't think a book like that would get written. And it's how subtle censorship works. It's not exactly politically incorrect. It's just not what an author would write nowadays, because he would self-censor. He knows his publisher wouldn't love the idea, and publicity wouldn't get the same energy behind it. Everything is just not quite the same as it would have been in 2010. So this means that there's a ton of stories via books and movies that just don't get made anymore. And in a kind of a different way, I understand how censorship works, making videos for different platforms, where you have to think of topics and thumbnails and titles, and they all have to fit together. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless just to make a video that nobody's. If you don't have the right thumbnail and title, you can make a good video, but if nobody watches it, it's like, tree in a forest. So I was trying to think of recent movies off the top of my head as examples, and they're kind of fading from memory because they're just such pointless milquetoast corporate slop. Somewhere in here, she reads she's got a social media post, and it's like the most lacking self-awareness thing she could say. So a show like The Savant is more suited to the peak woke period, like a decade ago. The audience is moving faster in one direction than Hollywood is aware of. So if this came out in 2015, they'd have the liberal murder porn audience who'll just watch anything, the NPR type of idiots who think they need to put mini libraries in the ghetto. There was some lovely blonde lady who lived in Vermont or New Hampshire or something, and that was her solution to the ghetto, to get folks to read, was just put little libraries in there and they would read. And people looking at her like, how do you talk to a woman like this? And you realize, oh, the 19th was a mistake, wasn't it? Yeah, it absolutely was. Though one would think the amount of failing movies and streaming shows would be a pretty serious indicator that their toxic left-wing beliefs are not selling. So they decided this show was too woke even for them, and they're delaying the anti-white hatred things cool down a little bit. And people are wondering, like, well, why not? You got this show idea and you got the actors. Why don't you just write episodes of left-wing terrorists? Because that's what's going on in America. We've been watching Antifa and BLM for the past it's not just the past few years. Like, people talk about 2020. Like, go back to Obama for 8 years. There was no shortage of left-wing extremism under for the past 20 years. You can keep looking at this kind of stuff. It's not as she points out, thinks it's like blonde-haired, blue-eyed Christians. Like, yeah, Josh, who worked on this show? Who's behind the scenes? Anyway, Hollywood, our globalist propaganda arm of the same Bolsheviks that fund Antifa. So you're just not going to see, like, there's so much that's censored out through self-censorship, and it's been censored across so many platforms for so long that, like, people don't know what they're missing in terms of censorship, where their whole worldview for people under like 30 now, the whole worldview is like Indiana Jones is going to punch the guys in Hugo Boss. You go, oh gosh, what about the Japanese in that conflict? Or the much more serious communism issue, or Islamic colonization for the past 1,000 years. You think that might be more of a story background universe, or the Arab slave trade? And they're like, what are those things? Yeah, that's why that's what brainwashed kids are. To take them out of that brainwashing causes this Pavlovian emotional response. Because now, like, even now, people who have not been paying attention are starting to become aware that America has a violent communist problem. So making a show about, like, the opposite of reality when there was just a political assassination is probably a bit too on the nose for people. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.